Warning, this video contains team selection and captain choices which some viewers may find offensive.
Hey guys, and welcome back to FPL TV. Before looking to Game Week 35, let's first see how my team performed in the big double Game Week 34. Following a pretty frustrating run of Game Weeks recently, particularly with me benching Tyrone Mings' 15-pointer 2 Game Weeks back, what I needed in this big double Game Week 34 was a bit of good fortune, and thankfully I certainly got that. With my one free transfer last week, I brought in Brighton's budget goalkeeper Jason Steele, who went on to bag back-to-back clean sheets along with the Stupinian who I already owned. The reason this move was so fortunate for me is because my initial planned transfer last week was instead buying Ederson, a move in which I had just the right amount of money to make. However, Kepa's price then dropped, I could no longer afford Ederson, and then the one Man City defensive option that I was so sure was guaranteed to play both games only played once and ended with 1 point for the double. A huge piece of good luck for me buying Steele instead. Considering that my wildcard and free hit chips have been long gone now, double Game Week 34 has been for a while a game week in which I've been having to prepare for. This double game week was one of the main reasons why I've been on the Mo Salah and Darwin Núñez double up for so long, and why I added Alexander-Arnold to the mix a few weeks back. It's not been an easy ride owning Núñez since Game Week 25, and in my mind there's no doubting that keeping him this long has been detrimental to my FPL season. At around 9 million, he's not come cheap, and before this game week he'd scored 14 points in the previous 7. I mean, considering the popular Ollie Watkins scored more than that in just one game against Newcastle during that time, it's safe to say it's been a bit of a disaster. With that said, he did at least get one start against Fulham during this double, and he came away with 1 assist winning a penalty. So despite the disaster it's been owning him, he is ending his time in my team on a fairly decent note. Elsewhere though, Mo Salah and Trent both delivered in their double game week, and the important part here, I think, was having them in place, ready in my squad for Game Week 34, without the need to take any hits to bring them in last week, and that's what really made it a great result for me. For Game Week 34, I still had one trump card up my sleeve this season, and that was having the triple captain chip still to play. With very minimal deliberation, I handed the triple captain to Erling Haaland last week, as I'd been planning to do for a while, which for me personally, I think was one of the most straightforward triple captain decisions I've ever had to make in FPL. Look, it wasn't astronomical numbers, with Haaland scoring 16 points over the 2 games, a goal and 2 bonus from each. However, it's a result I'm personally still very happy with. He played the full 90 in both games over the double, with 2 decent fixtures against Fulham and West Ham. And if I'd have been told before the game week that he'd definitely played the full 90 in both games, I'd have triple captained him every time here. It could have been more, of course, as he did come very close to adding at least 1 assist to his name over the double, Grealish missing 2 great chances in the first game and Rodri hitting the post from a Haaland pass in the second. However, 16 is still a respectable triple captain score, and enough to gain a bit of ground last game week. Nothing legendary, nothing that'll go down in FPL folklore, but a solid enough return. So for Game Week 34, in the end, an absolutely superb game week for me. No hits were taken, my free transfer went well, my triple captain chip was fairly well used, even single game week Dominic Solanke chipped in much to my delight. On a personal note, it was also a much needed good game week for me, particularly after benching Mings' 15-pointer in the previous week, which did leave me hugely demoralised. It was a memorable 137 points in the end, which gave me my first 100-pointer of the season and a game week rank of 46k, my best week of the season by some distance. That in turn provided a huge boost in ranking from 332k up to 193k. Absolutely over the moon with that. With only 4 game weeks of the season left to go, I still think reaching the top 100k is still going to be very, very unlikely for me, but Game Week 34 has given me a fighting chance at least. So let's move on to Game Week 35 now, discuss some potential transfer plans, as well as my potential team lineup. Now, before discussing my potential transfer activity, I think it's important to first iterate that my plans this game week, and for many I imagine, may hinge on this Man City fixture at home to Leeds this week. Why? Well, City versus Leeds is notably one of the first kickoffs on Saturday, and there's always that small chance of early lineup news before the deadline, which could therefore have an impact on how I proceed this game week. Of course, new appointment Sam Allardyce may have his say here, and surely look to tighten up his team for this trip to the Etihad. But there's still no doubting that on paper, there could be some big points on offer here for City assets. For example, if there were to be news of Alvarez getting another start here at home to Leeds, of course that'd be a very tempting differential punt. I'm in the market for a new forward this game week, with Darwin Núñez set to make way, and Alvarez at home to Leeds could be where I go, but only if there's solid evidence that he'll start this week. With City facing Real Madrid in the Champions League just a few days later, there does look to be a good chance that Alvarez could start again here. And City do also boast a double game week in 37, so he could also get some minutes there. No doubt a potentially explosive differential, but certainly a risky one, with no guarantees of his minutes for the rest of the season. It's not a transfer I intend to make this game week, but could be one I get tempted into if he is set to start. My current plan this game week is to still sell Darwin Núñez, but instead replace him with one of the Newcastle forwards Isaac or Callum Wilson. Arsenal this week perhaps not the best fixture on paper, however the Gunners have been less than convincing at the back in recent weeks without Saliba. And if Gabriel, who's currently a doubt, also misses that game, well that then bodes even better for this pair. Now the fondness to bring in a Newcastle forward this game week isn't particularly for game week 35, it's more in preparation for next week in 36, because Newcastle then boast a double game week. With both of the Newcastle forwards looking great options as things stand, and with that double in 36 in mind, I'm very fond of the idea to double up on this pair in 36 to be honest. So potentially one could come in this week and then one in the next. The only difficult part therefore is deciding which of the two to bring in first this week. And I think I'm leaning more towards Callum Wilson, simply due to the positions he takes up while simultaneously pushing Isaac further out wide. Over the last 3 game weeks, Wilson's had 5 big chances to Isaac's 1, boasts an XG of 2.5 respect to Isaac's 0.6, as well as having more shots, more touches inside the box. Simply put, when playing, Wilson dominates the goal threat numbers. And that, paired with the fact that he's a bigger differential for me this week, I think I'm going to take the risk there and opt for Wilson. This, however, does of course come with its risks, because just like Núñez who's making way, Wilson too isn't a guaranteed starter. Due to fitness concerns and protection, he's more prone to having his minutes managed, and that's of course the big worry. I'm certainly edging towards bringing in Callum Wilson this week and then Isaac in the next. But on the other hand, Isaac perhaps the safer choice for now, and he's still a very exciting option that even when Wilson plays, still offers good assist potential too, in addition to his already decent goal threat. So that's my potential transfer activity discussed for the game week. Darwin to Wilson perhaps the most likely free transfer I'll make. However, nothing is confirmed yet, and Isaac or Alvarez still with a chance of being brought in this week. As for the rest of my team, overall fairly happy with how the team is lining up. Many managers are understandably doubled up on the exciting Brighton's attacking options, whereas I'm now doubled up on their defence. But this game week, at home to a fairly goal-shy Everton, I'd say that's not a bad position to be in. Before double game week 34, I didn't particularly trust the Seagulls defensively, but following back-to-back clean sheets in the double, well this fixture on paper now is statistically as good as they get for a clean sheet really, so fingers crossed. For the captaincy in game week 35, well this again comes back to what I said earlier. With a home fixture against Leeds for Erling Haaland, on paper it looks an easy captaincy decision, and that's where it sits for now. However, this could be the game week that he's finally given a rest before the Champions League. And if so, and if there's any hints of that prior to the deadline, well, game week 35 could also be the chance to go differential. Transferring in Alvarez and then handing him the armband could therefore be an option for me in that case. But to be honest, call me crazy, if we are given the chance to go differential here, I'm actually quite tempted to take a punt on captaining Dominic Solanke this game week. Now, if someone told me at the beginning of the season I'd consider captaining Solanke against Chelsea, I'd have called them nuts. But Chelsea just looks so out of sorts at the moment. Lampard's record is pretty atrocious, and I actually quite fancy Solanke scoring here. Look, probably I won't go through with it, but very tempted. Of course, the likes of Mo Salah and Matoma, considerations too should Haaland get benched, so captaincy could be very open this week. I think in that case, if we do get the news late, it's just going to come down to what my gut tells me moments before the deadline. Having already spoken in this video about risks and opportunities to climb the rankings this late into the season, well, currently sat at first spot on my bench is Tyrone Mings once again, who I'm strongly considering to bring in for Kieran Trippier this game week. Now, of course, part of this is still due to the aftermath of what Mings did to me 2 game weeks back, bagging his first goal of the season and a 15-pointer sat on my bench. However, looking at the 2 fixtures, Arsenal surely with more likelihood of scoring here. Newcastle too, now without a clean sheet in their previous 6 games, whilst in my side I also have Saka playing against him. So for me personally, I think all signs point to it being worth taking the gamble here, betting against Trippier and hoping he doesn't deliver big. He's so heavily owned, and this may be an opportunity for me to try and pull some points back with a differential in Tyrone Mings. I mean, the only reason I've kept Trippier in my 11 for this video is just in case I do bottle that decision, but I think Mings will come in. So that's everything discussed regarding my team for Game Week 35. Darwin Núñez to Callum Wilson looking like the most likely free transfer. However, all that can change depending on any Man City team news before the deadline. That could also have a big impact on captaincy this week, so until Saturday morning, it's all still very much open to possibilities. Good luck to you all for the upcoming game week. FPL responsibly, and I'll catch you all in the next one.